Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you on board this special train from Lviv to Kyiv. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Over the course of the next 1 hour, we get to the latest developments in this battle between Russia and Ukraine. Russia has now used intense weapons, high caliber weapons, including the caliber cruise missiles. And over the course of the broadcast, we get you more on this big story. Peaceful countryside in Ukraine now impacted by this conflict. By and large, so far, only the bigger cities were targeted, but now even villages are being targeted. For example, villages around Kharkiv have been targeted. In Lviv, a fuel dump outside the city was targeted, and firefighters spent the better part of the night trying to control the blaze. It led to certain injuries, it led to some casualties, fortunately all non-fatal just as yet. But the situation appears to be taking a turn for the worse. And why is that? So far, the West was considered relatively safe, the western part of Ukraine. But now increasingly, the western part, whether it's Lviv or Ivano-Franko, are in the line of Russian fire.
Russia's offensive in Ukraine has moved to an even deadlier pace. The assault is moving from the east, close to Russian border, to the far west city, Lviv, bordering NATO member Poland. The largest city in western Ukraine was once bustling, providing safe haven for hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the war, raging in the troubled eastern parts, but is no longer the safe zone, immune from Russian airstrikes. In the last 24 hours, the city witnessed one of the fiercest attacks that western Ukraine has experienced by far. 2 rockets struck a fuel depot on the city's eastern outskirts, and 2 rockets later hit a military factory, followed by high-precision cruise missiles striking an infrastructure facility. Russia showing clear indications that it has expanded the war theatre. The chilling images on your screen capture the panic that gripped the city as missiles rained in. Citizens ran for their lives as they watched the deadly smoke engulfing the region. Civilians huddled inside bunkers to escape the wrath of Putin's ferocious assault.
We were sitting in our car for a couple of minutes, and then we heard this very loud, I don't know how to say it, when rocket just came. After a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds, second bombing, and everyone left to the shelters.
The attacks had caused significant damage to infrastructure facilities, blowing out windows at a local school, leading to widespread destruction. The attack on the western city came exactly at a time US President Joe Biden was just across in Poland. The US President was exactly at a distance of only 400 kilometers from the site where Putin's missile hit.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. Let us resolve to put the strength of democracies into action to thwart the designs of autocracy. Let us remember that the test of this moment is the test of all time.
Rescue teams are having their hands full, spending all night extinguishing raging fire and minimizing fallout of the attacks, which raged a fuel shortage, leading the massive flames.
In the fog of war, it is unclear on day 32 if Ukraine is able to strike back and hard at the Russian strongholds. Ukraine has also insisted it's mounted a series of counterattacks in the Kherson region in the south, and that is where the Russians have completely cut off Ukraine from the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. From Mariupol to Kherson, the Russians once again trying to consolidate their position even as Ukraine's forces try to strike back. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Lviv, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. There were a lot of expectations from US President Joe Biden's visit to Warsaw. It was, after all, one of the most powerful men in the world, talking about the road ahead in this conflict. Was he to come up with some solutions? At least people in Poland and in Ukraine were extremely hopeful there would be some solutions and some way forward. But he talked about the past. He talked about how the people had stood united to fight the Soviet era. He also spoke of President Putin in rather uncharitable terms. He called him a butcher. In the past, he's called him a war criminal and a killer. But where were solutions? What was the road ahead? And what is the road ahead? No clarity on that just as yet, even though President Biden made a very emphatic point. President Biden made a point that if there is an attack on a NATO country, they will not cede an inch, and every inch of NATO territory will be protected. But that's cold comfort for those fighting for Ukraine.
A month into Putin's invasion in Ukraine, defiant despite reverses. And now, US President Joe Biden's Poland visit comes as a massive statement against Russian aggression. From visiting US troops guarding NATO's eastern flank to witnessing the humanitarian toll of the Russian war firsthand, Biden took stock of the war that has put the whole world on the edge. After meeting the refugees who fled Ukraine amid the Russian assault, the US president did not hold back.
You're dealing every day with Vladimir Putin. I mean, look at what he's done to these people. What does it make you think? He's a butcher.
In a first since the start of the war, Biden held a meeting with the Ukrainian ministers in Warsaw, sending across a message of solidarity for President Zelensky leading Ukrainian fight back.
President Zelensky was democratically elected. He's Jewish. His father's family was wiped out in the Nazi Holocaust. And Putin has the audacity, like all our autocrats before him, to believe that might will make right.
Concluding his trip with an address in the Polish capital with a significant message to the war-torn country.
This war is not worthy of you, the Russian people. Putin can and must end this war. The American people will stand with you and the brave citizens of Ukraine who want peace.
Biden also dared Putin to keep his sight away from NATO.
American forces are in Europe, not in Europe, to engage in conflict with Russian forces. American forces are here to defend NATO allies. The reason we want to make clear is their movement on Ukraine. Don't even think about moving on one single inch of NATO territory.
The West has piled sanctions on the Russian economy, and it's already crumbling under its weight. Biden has made it clear that the squeeze won't stop.
Russian economy was ranked the 11th biggest economy in the world before this invasion. It will soon not even rank among the top 20 in the world.
With the war entering the fifth week, will the economic cost deter the unbendable Putin? Most crucially, will Biden's biggest ultimatum turn the tide for this war? Or will it make the US-Russia Cold War red hot?
US President Joe Biden's speech here in Poland, in Warsaw, was well received by a large number of people who said it gives them hope that the US stands with Warsaw, with Poland, with NATO countries. But there is a fear. The fear is, what about Ukraine? The fear is that what about the military hardware? Humanitarian assistance worth $1 billion for Ukraine is very good. But what about the military hardware that Ukraine requires very desperately to continue fighting with the Russians? Ukraine has demanded additional fighter jets. It's demanded the S-300 missile defense system. It's also demanded additional tanks. Will Ukraine get it, or will the fight remain restricted to small arms or the Javelin anti-tank guided missiles? That question remains. Gaurav Sawant in Warsaw, Poland for India Today. Of this conflict, and President Putin's war machine is bashing on regardless and almost relentless. Yesterday, when the US President Joe Biden was speaking in Warsaw, there were a series of missile and rocket strikes that took place in Lviv. It led to a fuel dump going up in flames. Was this a very clear signal that was being sent out to the US President? While he talked about changing regime in Moscow, while he called President Putin a butcher, on ground, Russian strikes were relentless, and they happened in multiple cities. I was in Warsaw. I bring you this report.
The war in Ukraine showing no signs of abating. Over a month, and Moscow's war machine is not slowing down. This horrific drone image captures a massive explosion in the capital city, Kyiv. The Russian Defense Ministry shared this image of an airstrike on a Ukrainian Buk missile system performed by an Iskander missile. The devastating strike taking out the missile system. In a massive explosion with deadly ferocity. An industrial unit was hit in the region bordering the capital city, and Irpin, with multiple Russian missile attacks raining. The mayor of the capital city announced a curfew from 8 p.m. local time on Saturday till early Monday. Residents allowed to leave their homes only to get to a nearby bomb shelter. There were, however, reports which said that the curfew was later revoked. The southern port city of Mariupol suffered relentless shelling since Russia began its operation in Ukraine. Multiple attacks continue to be witnessed in the heart of the city. Residents are taking shelter in basement as they try to stay alive amid the destruction around them. Fresh explosions were reported near Ukraine's western city of Lviv as President Joe Biden wrapped up his visit to neighboring Poland. But Ukraine's military and the brave residents continue to fight back every single day. These images are from Ukraine's second largest city of Kyiv, where residents covered the monument of Shevchenko with sandbags to protect it from Russian airstrikes.
On the last 24 hours, Kyiv has largely remained quiet. There was no airstrike or missile strike on the Kyiv city proper. However, 15 kilometers away from Kyiv towards Irpin, an industrial complex was destroyed by a missile strike yesterday morning. Situation around Kyiv also remains largely quiet. Not much military activity in the areas of Bucha, Irpin or Gostomel or even in Bromry. However, Russian army continues to improve their defensive posture in these areas, rotating their troops, beefing up their supplies, stocking up in these areas.
With Rajesh Pawar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Russia has used ship-launched missiles to target certain localities in and around Kyiv, and this marks a major escalation in the battle. The caliber weapon systems are extremely precise and dangerous. Now, this shows in the second month of the battle, day 32 of the conflict, Russia is now using higher caliber precision weapons, including cruise missiles, to target certain vital assets and vital points, since its ground forces still remain far away from Kyiv.
A brooding night sky over the Black Sea, torn apart by 4 caliber cruise missiles launched from a Russian Navy Buyan M missile boat. Their targets, Ukrainian sites near the country's capital, Kyiv. Capable of hitting targets hundreds of kilometers away with devastating accuracy, the use of caliber cruise missiles signals a shift into the realm of advanced weaponry in the second phase of this war. The Russian Ministry of Defense has flaunted this video of the Iskander short-range ballistic missile as well, being used to target a claimed foreign mercenary unit using a Kyiv shopping mall as a reloading base for its rocket units. The third major Russian missile system being used is the Yakhont high-speed cruise missile, seen here being launched against a Ukrainian weapons depot in the western part of the country. The Yakhont is a progenitor of the Indo-Russian BrahMos missile in service with the Indian Armed Forces. And the missile that Russia has used for the first time in combat, the Kinzhal hypersonic air-launched cruise missile, seen here smashing into a Ukrainian underground weapons depot. The Kinzhal is a nuclear-capable weapon that has of course been used only with conventional warheads in Ukraine. Four advanced Russian missile systems, all four being used in anger against Ukraine. The damage they're causing, plain for their makers and the world to see. Of course, there's another Russian missile that's on operational alert amidst this Ukrainian crisis. A weapon stored away secretly inside Russia's Bore-class nuclear ballistic missile submarines. A weapon that will hopefully never be used. The Bulava, a submarine-launched intercontinental range ballistic missile. A Cold War weapon that could bring about the end of the world if ever fired in anger. A weapon whose heightened state of alert has sparked nuclear fears across the world. As Russia's war in Ukraine rumbles forward in its second month, missile power will define the onward march. Bureau Report, India Today.
A BMW showroom was also in the line of missile fire, and in Kharkiv, this was the latest and the newest showroom that, according to forces in Ukraine, was specifically targeted by the Russians. The repeated targeting of Kharkiv is being seen as an attempt to break the will of the people of Ukraine. Russia had expected Kharkiv to fall with a large number of Russian-speaking people living there, but that clearly did not happen, with Ukraine fighting back and fighting hard. And that is why people in Ukraine say that strikes, especially on Kharkiv, are punitive. Now, India Today is getting you a 360-degree perspective of this story. We have reporters in multiple parts of this conflict zone. For example, India Today's Foreign Affairs Director Geeta Mohan traveled from Moscow to Donetsk from the Russian side, and she gets you a report about how there were missile strikes that took place from the Ukrainian side and the casualties they caused on the other side. We bring you all sides of the story. Take a look at this ground report from Donetsk at a time when Russia claims that it is now in almost 90% control of the Donbass region, and the Ukraine establishment insisting that it's fighting back to recover every inch of lost territory.
Ukraine is fighting a two-front war. One with Russian invasion forces and the other with Russian-backed rebels of Donetsk, who call themselves the Donetsk People's Republic, a separatist region which is pitted against the Ukraine rule. As Ukrainians battle it out against Russian aggression, images from southeastern Ukraine tell a different story. India today visited this rebel stronghold of Donetsk to find strong support for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion. In Donetsk, most cars were seen with pro-Russia Z signs. The anti-Ukrainian sign is a call for independence from Ukraine.
Z denotes independence. Russia and the breakaway factions of Donbas region, Donetsk, what they call Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, are together fighting the Ukrainians. And the two signs that they use are signs that Ukraine also recognizes distinctly as being anti-Ukraine, which is V for victory and Z for independence. In Donetsk, you will not see a lot of V signs, you'll see Z. Why? Because the call is for independence. So a lot of cars over here that you see have the Z sign, only saying that they do not want to remain with Ukraine, they want independence.
Russian supporters in downtown Donetsk were also seen paying homage to the lives lost in the Tochka U missile attack, carried out by the Ukrainians on 14th March. More than 20 people were allegedly killed in the attack, which left marks of shelling on residential buildings.
This is the building that got hit, and I'll show you. This is where it landed. 20 people were killed. That's the memory. That's the memory of the people whose lives were lost. And the entire building over here, you can see the marks of shelling. If you see, there are marks of shelling everywhere in the building.
Lately, it's noted that the attacks are even more frequent than before. I talked with some military personnel, and it's totally speculative what I'm going to say. But one possible explanation is that Ukrainian troops, which are stationed in Donetsk, or near Donetsk right now, it's possibly more than 50,000 of them. So it's a huge troop, and possibly they are sending the sort of a message.
The Moscow-backed separatists have ruled the Donbas region for 8 years now. Russia is now using them as tools to gain upper hand in the invasion war.
Will there be a ceasefire? Will there be an end to war? Can there be negotiations where both sides' demands are met and kept? We'll be reporting on that. With which journalist Satya Rautre in Donetsk, Geeta, Mohan, for India.
We will continue to get developments on this big breaking story through the days and weeks ahead. The situation is unfortunately likely to take a turn for the worse, but India Today's biggest team of reporters on ground from Moscow to Kyiv to Kharkiv to other parts will continue to get you the latest. But that is all I have time for on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.